Hello everyone, I'm Zishan Shah and welcome to Zinteractive. So once you are setting up your scene and your objects and textures are ready, so the next step is lights, camera and
action.
Lights, camera and Maya software render.
Oh.
So we will learn that in lesson 11. In this lesson now we will learn about the lights, the camera and the rendering using the Maya software renderer. So basically the first thing that you want to learn about the rendering is the rendering settings. The rendering settings you can find in the rendering option or in the window option on the top, okay, here, or you have a button here as well, which is about the rendering settings. When you click on it, it will give you the rendering setting on your screen. Now here, the first thing that you need to do is that decide which renderer you are going to use. So I will use Maya software renderer. So I will choose Maya software renderer, and all the settings I will see is now regarding the Maya software renderer. So if you notice here, it will show you your output path, what you are going to render and where it will be saving, okay, the file name, everything here. Underneath, what is the size of the file you want to render. Other than that, where you can change this, you can change this in the final file output. Now file output is can be for a single file or for an animation. If you're doing animation, so you will be doing batch rendering. That means sequence of files, and when you join those sequences you will get the whole animation. Now whatever format you want, you can choose from here. There are a couple of formats here. Maybe if you want JPEG, you can choose JPEG, okay. And file name prefix, how you want the naming convention to be, okay. So there are different ways to do this. It's up to you if you want to use this one. This is a name and extension, so here you can change it, okay. So there are a couple of different naming conventions, okay. I like this one, so basically I usually use this name and the pound sign, okay, and then extension. And frame padding, like how many frames you want to skip or how many frames you want to pad. So here you can change that. I will keep it as it is. I'm not going to render any animation, so that's why I don't want that. Suppose you want to start the animation from frame 1.250, so you will write the 1.250, which is here. Or if you want to start the animation from the beginning, like from 0.80, like you can notice here, you can write that, or 1, or whatever you want. So I will keep it as it is. End frame, the last frame, okay. Or suppose you can choose any one of these. Maybe I want to render from here to here, so I can write here 0.8 to 225, something like that. You can write it. So here right now it is rendering from 1.250 to 12.500 frames, so it will just render this part. Otherwise you can write whatever you want. And by frame means like how many frames you want. So I want each frame, so I will type it 1, okay. Skip existing frame. Suppose you have already rendered the file, but now you have done some extension and you want to render some more, okay. So you can click on this. So what it will do, it will not render the whole animation, it will render only the new parts of the animation or the new frame. So you can skip the existing frames. So this is all you do when you are doing a animation. But if you're not doing any animation, you don't have to go into these, or or that you can just save it as it is from the render view instead of doing the settings from the batch renderer. Renderable cameras, so you can add cameras. Suppose if you want to render 2 or 3 cameras, you can add more cameras, or if you want to render a specific camera, you can choose that camera from here, okay. So that you can also do here, changing. Then it will give you image size. You can write your own size, or you have a lot of presets here, okay. So you can choose from any one of these presets. You have video presets, like presets, you have print presets also, okay. You can maintain the width and height ratio, so that when you change it, so there is no like clipping, okay. And also you can use the pixel expect or device expect Here is your units. Pixels are usually what we need, but if you're working for print media, you can also change some settings here, okay, and you can use those. So this is how pretty much you will have in the Maya Common Renderer, and it's very basic. You don't have to worry too much about it. And it will always save in your folder that you have set up in the beginning. As I told you, you have to set up always your folder. Like, you can go to the file and you can set the project, and when you set the project, automatically you will have images folder in that project folder, and your output will be going directly inside that. So make sure you do that in the beginning. Now, once you are done with the rendering setting and you know what you are going to render and where you want to render, so now you will go to the render view to render your image or to test your render. So you have two different choices. Now, to get that, simply you have one option here, which is basically on the top shortcut, or you can find it here in the windows, okay, in the rendering editors. Here I have this button which will bring up render view. Okay, as soon you will click on that, in the render view, it will render a test scene in front of you. So you can see that this is rendering the scene right now. Okay, and you can notice that it's taking quite a little time to render because of the scene setting. Okay, and this is basically Maya software renderer. So if you have this Maya software renderer selected, so it will choose that and it will render accordingly. You can change it to whatever you want. You can change it to Arnold, or you can change it to hardware. So it's totally up to you, whatever renderer you're using. Okay, so now I am done with this rendering part. So here we have some of the settings on the top. Okay, we have file, view, and every other thing, and these are also shown here as a shortcut. Okay, now we will go through these. Right now we have this option, render the current frame. So whatever frame we are in, like suppose if you're animating, okay, and here is your time slider, and if you go to frame 80 and press render current frame, okay, so it will render the frame 80. Okay, then here you have render a region. Now, what is the render region? Suppose I'm going to change something here. So this is my focus point now. So if I'm doing some changes here, I don't want to render the whole scene. I only want to render this part. So what I can do is that instead of rendering the whole scene and wasting time, we can click here. Okay, I can select any area. Okay, like I can draw, suppose this part. Okay, and you can see a red box around it. So now it is rendering at this part, and suppose if I do any change here, like suppose if I will take this object here, press W and move it somewhere upwards, okay, and because it's got changed, so if I click here, so you can notice that it is only rendering this part. So you can see that I have changed and it is showing here, but it's not showing here because this is the part which is not rendering. This is the only part which is rendering. So let me undo this, okay, here, and bring back the normal, like back where it was, and press this again, and you can notice that how it is rendering this part. So you can select any region from here and then press this button, and then you can render that part. Now suppose I don't want that, so you can click here again, so it will render the whole thing. Now here we have one of the settings here, which is basically called IPR, which is interactive photorealistic rendering. Now why it is interactive photorealistic rendering is because suppose right now if I will do any change, that change is not happening over here. Okay, like suppose if I move my scene here, so I'm not able to see that working on my rendering view. Okay, so if you want to see any kind of change happening, okay, so what you can do is that you can just click on the IPR, and that IPR will be turned on Okay, but you can see the quality is not that good because the main purpose of IPR is to render fast. So if you apply any changes, you can see that change as quickly as possible in your view. So it just give you a gist of what you will get afterwards. Okay, so suppose if I move around, okay, and move to this part and move any object here, so it will give me that quick interactive scene over here. Okay, so if I do any kind of changing, what I need to do is that I have to select that region, suppose this whole thing, okay, and then I can move around, press refresh the IPR here, or press this IPR, so I can get that change basically here. Okay, so this is how the IPR will work. Okay, basically for the testing purposes. So I will I can pause the IPR, I can pause the, or I can stop the IPR from here. So now I'm not in the IPR mode, and you can see that IPR is now turned off. Now here we have one more button, which is basically like a button that records your picture, which is good for comparison purposes. What do I mean is that, suppose if I click it now, okay, you can see that I have a scroll bar here. So this scroll bar is basically, if I move around, it will show me that image and the current image. Okay, now suppose if I do some kind of change, like suppose if I move these things around and render that again, so once the rendering is done, I can press this button again. So you can see the scroll bar is has become more smaller. Now if I go through these like this scroll bar, first of all, the first area of the scroll bar is your current render, which is on the screen. Okay, then the latest one that you saved, because I just pressed the this keep image button right now, so this is the latest one which is being saved. Now if I go further, this is the last one. The last render looks like this. So now I can easily compare these two renders. So this looks like this looks like this. So I can compare two renders. Suppose if you want to compare the lighting, you want to compare the colors, so you can easily do that. Now once you are done, because it's taking space, so you can delete these. Like I can click, press on remove image and remove this one, and now I have like, you know, my current is this one right now. Okay, so this is how I can undo this one. This is how you can compare two different renders on your screen. So this is how a rendering view works. So in the Maya software, and you can render just by going here, okay, rendering your scene. And once your scene is rendered, so your image will be automatically saved if you have set it up in the rendering setting. Or what you can do is that once your render is done, you can go to file and you can save your image, or you can go to the options here. Okay, raw image you want to save, or you want to save a color management, you can do the changes, or simple you can go to file, save image, choose wherever you want to save this file, and then you can choose whatever format you want and you can save there. Okay, so this is how you will get an image, the final image, rendered image, and then you can use wherever you want. Now, a really important thing that's make your object look realistic is basically the lighting also. Okay, one of the factors is the lighting also. Usually there is not only one factor that can make your whole scene look realistic, it's the combination of factors. So one of the factors is the lighting. So how we can create the Maya software based lighting. Okay, so we will learn in this lesson about the Maya software based lighting, and then we will move to the Arnold in our next tutorial lesson. Okay, So let me first of all zoom it out a little bit. Okay, let me move this back here. Okay, now to create lighting you have to go to the create option. Okay, and here we have lights, so we can click on this dotted line and we will have this. So whatever you want to like create, camera, objects, curves, always will be in the create. So that's a cue for that. Okay, now we have different kind of lights here. So let's go one by one in a sequence of like from more common to less common. So the first choice of a person, all like when he's doing lighting, he and using Maya software, he might use point light, which is the most common one. So a point light is like a omnidirectional light, like a bulb, which goes in all directions. So when you click on the point light, you will get a light on your scene. Okay, now I cannot see any changes here. The reason I cannot see any changes is because my light option is not on. So I can turn it on either from here, okay, use all lights, or I can just simply click here. So as soon I will do that, you can see that I have now shadows, okay, and I can move my lights so the shadows are moving as well. Okay, I can move back and forth just like that. Okay, so how you will change the settings? To change the settings, you always have to go to the attribute. Now in the attribute, every light have different attributes, just like every primitive have different has different attribute. Okay, now I have here point light selected. It says what kind of light it is as a point light. Now you can change this light to any other light from here. Okay, and if you want, you can change it to like a ordinal light too, but we are not going to learn ordinal light in this tutorial. We will be sticking to our Maya software light. So I can change it to whatever I want from here as well, even after making them. Okay, but I don't want that. Suppose I have here a color. I don't want this to be a white light. I want it to be a, like, you know, like a bulb sort of light. So I can choose this off white color here. Now maybe this is too intense, so I can reduce the intensity. It will become dark, like lighter, or you know, brighter. So you can you know, control the intensity also, and you can see how the intensity is working here as well. Okay, so that's one thing that you can do that. Now in reality, lights have decays. Now what are the decay? Decay is like the amount of the light which starts to reduce depending on the distance. Okay, if this is a light which is a low voltage light, like it is like a 10 watts light, means like it's not too bright. So what will happen when the power of this light gets reduced, it will stop reaching beyond that point. But in this case, it's not happening. It's infinite. It's keep on going where, like, you know, or in all the direction, which is not in the real in real case. This does not happen. Okay, so it will not happen in real case. So what we need to do is that we can go to the decay rate. Instead of no decay, we have three different options. We have linear. It's basically like a linearly it will go decayed. Then cubic, it will like decay by cubic. Okay, but the most realistic is the quadratic. So I will click on the quadratic. But as soon I will do that, just see, I cannot see the light anymore. Why? Because the value now is very low. 1.9 for a decay rate of quadratic is very low. So what you need to do is that you have to increase it. Now I have increased to 10. I cannot go beyond. Okay, but still I can type a manual value. If I will type here 500, still you can see it's not giving me the light itself. So that means it have to be high, the value have to really high. Suppose if I will type here 15,000, let's see what happens. Now starting to get some light over here. But notice how realistic it looks, because the light falls in the whole area with a decay. So if I increase this, you can see that what's going on. Let me increase it more. Make it. Let me make it 50,000. Let's see. Okay. So now you can see that the light is falling here more and falling here less. So this is how I'm getting the realistic light setup. Okay. So now it's too much, so let me reduce it. Okay. So basically this is how you will get your decays, okay, and decay will help you to create a very realistic light setup. Let me make it something like this, okay, or you can change the values, okay. And so now if I will move the light, you can see that how the decay is helping. If I move the light outwards, so you can see the light, it's kind of decaying as it's going far away, okay. But if there is no decay, let me go back to no decay, okay. Now the value is too high because, you know, 32 million, something like that, for a no decay light is too much, so I have to go back to 1, okay. So just notice I'm far away, but still the light is infinite. So you can see that quadratic, okay. So and how the quadratic is different, like a decay is different than a no decay, okay. So if it goes near, you can see that it's becoming brighter. It's going if it is going far away, it's getting more you know, darker. So this is what the decay do. So let me delete this, okay, and let's go to some other light. The other common light over here is the spotlight, okay. If I click on the spotlight, you can see that there is a spotlight being made here, and you can see it's a very tiny light. It's a little hard to see that because the icon is smaller. Let me make this icon bigger. Now when you make the icon bigger, you will notice that it will not affect your light. It is only affecting the icon, so that you can clearly see that, okay. So I can move it down like this, okay. I can move it around, I can rotate it. So whatever I will do, you can see that it is creating a spot, the spot of this shape on the ground. So if I rotate it, okay, or move around, it will be affected with that spot, okay. So this is how the spotlights work. And now if you will notice here, the attributes of spotlights are quite different than the point light. I have here cone angle. What is the cone angle? It increases or decreases the cone of it, okay. Suppose I only want this area. Then penumbra angle. What is the penumbra angle? Like the penumbra is basically the softness of the edges. You can say fall off, okay. And then I have here drop off. What does the drop off do? It's kind of make it more softer, okay. And then I can increase it more, and I can do this. So you can have a different kind of setting, and I can increase the intensity. So you can play with the settings, okay, whatever settings you want, and accordingly you will get the result out of it. So this is how it looks like right now, okay. And then what else you can do is that, suppose this cone angle, let me make it a little smaller, okay. I will press E for rotation, and I will rotate it in this complete this way. So I can make one here, and then I can press Control D to duplicate this and move the duplicated one to the other side. So I can have more than 2 lights. Any light you can make them more than 2, and then I can press Shift key and move the clone to the other side as well, okay. Same thing I can do with here. Press Shift key and move it, or Control D to duplicate it, so you can have more than one light in your room. So this is how lights can be duplicated. Okay, now let me delete all these spotlights, and then I will go back to the normal, or let me do one thing here. Let me undo this. Let's go to one part here. Okay, one light here, which is basically directional light. Now what is the directional light basically? Directional light is not a light by itself, but what it do is that it changes the direction of the existing light, especially the light coming from outdoors. So if I click here, okay, you will notice that I will not be able to see that light, okay, because it's too small. So what I can do is that I can make it a little bigger. Okay, let me delete these so you can see how the result is. Okay, so you can see that directional lights, whenever you apply a directional light, it comes with a default light by itself. Okay, and that default light is facing straight. Okay, so it is facing in this direction. Notice what happens if I rotate this. Okay, if I rotate it, see what is happening. It's only changing the direction of that light actually. Okay, that default light. Now if I will move it down like this, okay, and move it up or back or somewhere here, nothing changes. Why? Because it is only affected, it only affects the direction. Okay, like now if I will make it completely downwards, you can see the shadows are coming downwards. If I will make it like, you know, something like this, so you can see that the shadows are going in this direction. If I will move it, nothing will change because it's not like position dependent, it's like rotation direction dependent. Okay, so this is how you will get the result. If I will move it up, all the shadow will be on the top. If I will do it down, so that's what it do is that it will with the existing light, whatever lights you have, you can apply with those, and it will try to change the direction of that one. Okay, so let me delete this. Now another light here is the ambient light. So if I click on the ambient light here, okay, you will notice that as soon I will press the ambient light, I will get some kind of a light on the screen, but there is no shadow. Because what is ambient light? Suppose if you are adding a lot of lights over here, for example, let me undo it till I get my spotlights again on the screen. Okay, here I have my spotlights. Okay, so if you notice that the scene looks good, okay, but it's quite darker. Let me make it more darker. Okay, let me reduce the the intensity of every one of these to 1. Okay, so what will happen is that the scene will become more and more dark. Okay, now to bring up more light, what I need to do is that I have to play with the intensity more. Okay, I have to increase the intensity more, but it will not give me a good like kind of a output. So what I can simply do is that I can go to the ambient light. Now what does the ambient light do? It does not give you shadow, but it gives you only a brighter light in your room. So in this kind of a scene, if I press ambient light, you can see that the whole room is lit with the light. Okay, so which is too much, I guess. So if I will reduce this, okay, and you can see that if I will make it 0, I can see now my original scene. But if I will make it 0.1, so you can see that I can still see that spotlight. Okay, and that ambient light is kind of giving a push to those spotlight. Even I can make it more less. Instead of 0.1, I can make it 0.05. okay, and just see how it looks like. It's kind of gives me a very good a feeling of that. Okay, so it kind of pushes your existing light. So suppose without the ambient light, your scene will look like this, and with the ambient light, your scene will look like this. Okay, so this is how you can get some good results with the help of ambient light. Now let me delete this ambient light and these, and let's see what is the area light. Now, unlike all these lights, the area light basically the like size affected. Okay, right now I cannot see anything because the area light is too small. Now, any one of these other lights, if I will create on my scene, so if I will make them bigger or smaller, the icon will become bigger or smaller. But it's not the case with the area light. If I will make the area light bigger or smaller, it will affect the light also. So as bigger I will make the light, it will get more stronger and stronger. So right now the intensity of the area light is I think it's too less. So if I will try to increase it more and more, okay, so I can see the like a better result. So maybe make it more, something like this. Okay, and you can see I can rotate it, so you can see that it's rotation dependent basically. So if you will rotate, so it will be affecting the shadow in that direction. Plus, now let's see what happens if I make it bigger and smaller. If I will make it bigger, you can see the lights become very soft. Okay, if I will make it small, you can see the light is becoming very sharp. Okay, so it is size dependent. So bigger, soft shadow, like soft light; smaller, it will be harsh light. Okay, so that's like pretty much about this area light. Okay, it works on the area basically. Okay, a really good kind of result it will also give you. So you can use the area light with higher value to light up your scene. Okay, so even you can maybe make it less. Okay, and you can later on add ambient light like we did before, like suppose 0.05. okay, and you can see that it is giving you a good result, maybe 0.1. okay, 0.1 is good. And you can change the color of the ambient light also. Maybe I can make it a little bit whitish. Okay, sorry, off whitish. Okay, and then I can use the ambient shade also to change it, but I will keep it as it is 0.450. Okay, so this is how you can combine the lights together. You can create the lights together. One more we have here is the volume light. Okay, now volume light is basically it will give you a volumetric effect. Like suppose, let me delete these two lights from my scene. Okay, and if I create this light, so you can see that how it is giving me a volumetric effect, and you can see down as well how it is highlighting on the floor. Okay, and I can increase it, decrease it from here, simple like what you can do in the other lights. If I will change the size of it, you can see the icon is becoming bigger, but it is not affecting the light itself. Only in area lights it gets affected. Now the volume light have volume shapes. We can have a box shape, we can have a cylinder shape, and we can have a cone shape. Okay, and depending on each shape, so the light will be a little bit changed. Okay, now you can make this light like decay also. Okay, so you have different kind of settings here. So if you want to change it, you can change the settings from here. Okay, and I will keep it as it is. I don't want to change anything here. Okay, so this is how your volumetric lights will work. Okay, so we have these kind of lights here, and you can create any kind of lighting effect using the volumetric light or area light or spotlight or point light, directional light or ambient light, and try to do different experiments using these files. These are all inside the exercise folder. Okay, So this is the end of part A of lights, camera and rendering of Maya software renderer. Now we will next class we will move to the part B where we will learn how to work on the cameras and how to work on the render setup.